Good morning. The January 18th, 2017 meeting of the Board of Estimate is now called to order. In the interest of promoting the order and efficiencies of these hearings, persons who are disruptive to the hearing will be asked to leave the hearing room immediately. Meetings of the Board of Estimate are open to the public for the duration of the meeting. The hearing room must be vacated at the conclusion of the meeting. Failure to comply may result in a charge of trespassing. Madam Deputy Controller, are there any corrections, additions, or deferrals on the agenda?
Good morning. For today's agenda, the board did receive a protest from Ms. Kim Trueheart for all items on the agenda. The board reviewed her protest, however, it will not be heard. I have the following deferrals to announce. Pages 18 to 19 are being deferred for 1 week. Pages 54 to 55, items 8 and 9 are being deferred for 1 week. Pages 56 to 57, items 10 and 11 are being deferred for 1 week. I have the following abstentions to note. There are no abstentions for the Honorable Mayor Pugh. There are no abstentions for the Honorable President Young. The Honorable Comptroller Pratt will abstain on pages 36 to 37, item number 7. The item that remains on the non-routine agenda is page 49 as a result of the deferrals. Mr. President, members of the board, those are the protests received, the deferred items, as well as the abstentions that have been reported for today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. I will direct the board members' attention to the memorandum from our office dated January the 17th, 2017, identifying matters to be considered as routine agenda items, together with any correction and addition that have been noted by the Deputy Controller. I will entertain a motion to approve all of the items contained on the routine agenda.
I move the approval of the items on the routine agenda.
Second.
All those opposed say nay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. The motion carried. The routine agenda has been adopted. Before we go any further, I want to recognize Councilman Robert Stokes, who have joined us in the back. The first item on the non-routine agenda can be found on page 49, Department of Audits, Audits Report, and related audit digest. Will the parties please come forward?
Good morning, Mr. President.
Good morning.
Members of the board, I'm Bob McCarty, City Auditor. The Department of Audits has conducted a performance audit of the Department of Public Works. As a result of our audit, we noted 5 areas where the effectiveness of the control procedures could be improved. Finding number 1, DPW did not meet its targets for the number of rat burrows baited during fiscal years 14 and 15. The number of burrows baited during fiscal year 14 were 54,696 compared to a target of 60,000. And the reported number of rat burrows baited during fiscal year 2015 were 49,839 compared to a target of 100,000. However, because of missing data and discrepancies to support the actual reported amounts, we could not determine whether the reported performance amounts were accurate. According to DPW, the reported number of rat burrows baited is based on reports generated for CityStat from information obtained from the daily treatment worksheets. However, we found many discrepancies between the information on the daily treatment worksheets and on the reports generated for CityStat. We believe that the discrepancies between the number of rat burrows baited as recorded on the daily treatment worksheets and those recorded in the Customer Service Report, or CSR system, and on the CityStat reports occur because there was no reconciliations performed. Also, we were told that a superintendent reviews and approves all daily treatment worksheets, but there was no sign-off or other evidence of any reviews or approvals. We recommend that DPW establish procedures to document supervisory reviews and approvals of information contained on the daily treatment worksheets and performs reconciliations to the information recorded and reported in the CSR system, the CityStat reports, and all applicable payroll information. We also recommend that in accordance with the administrative manual, which is section AM 502-1, DPW establish or approve its policies and procedures to adequately maintain its records. The agency's response. The Bureau of Solid Waste stated that its standards operating procedures do reflect adherence to the administrative manual, but the Bureau agrees that there should be a clear trail from the daily treatment worksheets, the CSR system, the city stat reports, and applicable payroll records. Supervisory documentation review and reconciliation of key information occurs, but DPW agrees that such chains of custody need to be strengthened and documented. The Bureau stated that it aims to establish technology which will enable the electronic recording of such work in real time and fully verify the work performed. Finding number 2. Parts 2 and 3 of the inspection and follow-up action checklist for detecting and preventing rats, a form which is used by inspectors to record a number of rat burrows found and baited, were rarely completed by the inspectors for the 4 weeks we tested. We believe that the checklist included in Part 2 and 3 were designed to assist in providing information to enhance proactive and preventive rat control measures. However, for the 4 weeks we tested, most of the forms that we reviewed were either marked NA or left blank. The Bureau of Solid Waste procedures do not address the checklist and do not include any specific instructions for its completion. We recommend that the Bureau of Solid Waste procedures be expanded to address the checklist and that inspectors be given adequate guidance, direction, and training on completing the inspection form. As part of its review and approval process, supervisors should also sign off to verify that the inspection form is properly completed. The agency's response. DPW stated that it agrees that its procedures should be expanded to address when the checklist should be completed, including specific instructions for completing the form, and that supervisors verify that the inspection form is properly completed. Finding number 3, DPW did meet its DPW did not meet its targets for the tonnage collected for household recycling for fiscal years 14 and 15. For fiscal years 14, the reported tonnage for household recycling was 26,083 tons, compared to a target of 32 tons. For fiscal year 2015, the reported tonnage for household recycling was 27,914 tons, compared to a target of 34,000 tons. The reported tonnage collected, however, was overstated because it included items that are not considered to be household recycling, such as recycling from schools, libraries, and large businesses. We recommend that DPW should review its performance measures included in the agency detailed budget of estimate recommendations, which is the budget book, to ensure that reported amounts are consistent with the established performance measures. We also recommend that DPW review future performance measures to determine whether these targets require revision based on past actual amounts. Before changing any of its future performance measures, however, DPW should follow the procedures established by the Department of Finance for the review and approval of performance measures. Agency's response. DPW stated that it did not meet its recycling target for fiscal year 2014 and 15, but they dispute the finding that the tonnage was overstated because it included items that are not considered to be household recycling, and stated that household recycling does not exist. Recycling is based on materials collected regardless of its source. DPW recommended that household recycling be replaced in the budget book by single stream recycling to more accurately reflect the true nature of the recycling collected. DPW stated that it agrees that it should review future performance measures to determine whether these targets require revision based on past actual amounts, and should such revisions be determined, DPW will follow the procedures established by the Department of Finance for approval of any suggested changes. Our comments to this was that while DPW agrees that it did not meet its targets, and DPW disputes that the recycling tonnage was overstated, we basically stated that during our audit, we just used the performance measures included in the budget book, and which were for tonnage collected from only household recycling. Finding number 4, we were unable to verify the accuracy of reported amounts of recycling tonnage collected. We were not given the recycling tickets that we requested for testing. For fiscal year 14, we requested truck tickets from the Southeast Quadrant. However, we were told that the warehouse that stored these tickets were broken into and the tickets were missing. Instead, we were given the truck tickets for the Northwest and the Southwest Quadrants. Also, for fiscal year 15, we requested truck tickets for the Southwest Quadrant. However, we were given the truck tickets for the Northwest Quadrant. Although the tickets that we were given were not the sample quadrants that we requested for testing, these truck tickets did support the reported amounts for recycling tonnage collected. At our exit conference, DPW furnished us with a fiscal year the proper fiscal year 2015 truck tickets that we selected for our audit, and the tickets that DPW furnished supported the reported amounts for the recycling tonnage. We recommend, in accordance with the administrative manual, that DPW establish procedures to maintain its supporting records. And DPW agreed in their response. Finding 5. DPW did not meet its targets for the linear feet of water distribution system rehabbed or replaced for fiscal years 14 and 15. Also, we could not verify the reliability of the reported linear feet of water distribution system rehabbed or replaced in fiscal year 14 because the supporting documentation for those amounts were not available. In fiscal year 14, the reported amount of linear feet of water distribution system rehab or replaced was 60,303 compared to a target of 145,125 linear feet. For fiscal year 15, the reported amount of linear feet for water distribution system rehab and replace was 83,965 compared to the target of 146,028 linear feet. We recommend that DPW review its performance measures included in the budget book and determine the steps necessary to approve actual performance so the targets can be met. We also recommend that DPW review future performance measures to determine whether these targets require revisions based on past actual amounts. Before changing any future performance measures, again, DPW should follow the procedures established by the Department of Finance. We also recommend, in accordance with the city's administrative manual, that DPW establish procedures to properly maintain its records. Agency response, DPW stated that on the revised targets for 14 and 15, DPW not only, DPW stated that using the revised targets for 14 and 15, DPW not only met its targets, but exceeded them in both fiscal years. The discrepancies between the auditor's baseline targets, which they took from the budget book, and DPW's revised targets is due to the fact that the revised figures were not updated in the budget book. And we used the performance measures in the budget book in our analysis, and we saw no evidence that finance was informed of any changes proposed by DPW.
Chair recognizes Controller Pratt.
I have 3 questions. In finding number 2, it states that the Bureau aims to establish technology which will enable the electronic recording of such work in real time and fully verify work performed. And my question is, when will this new technology be implemented?
We are looking
State your name first.
my name is Valentina Yukwom. I'm the head of Bureau of Solid Waste, Department of Public Works. We are actually looking at different processes now, technologies and tablets. So we are hoping sometime before the end of fiscal year F16 or early F18 to be able to recommend something.
Fiscal year what?
End of this fiscal year.
17.
Yes, or
Oh, you said
early,
16.
Yes, or early F18 to recommend something.
Okay, so can you report back to the board prior to June 30th, where you are in this process?
Yes, madam.
Okay. Another question I have, finding number 3 on page 8, it says that my question is that you agree that the Bureau of Solid Waste standard operating procedures should be expanded to address when and under what conditions the inspection and follow-up checklists for detecting and preventing rats, parts 2 and 3 should be completed, including specific instructions for completing the form. My question is, when will your updated procedures be in place?
We actually have done that, ma'am, and we started the training January 9, 2017.
Okay, great. And my last question is finding number 4 on page 12. DPW agrees with the recommendation that in accordance with the Baltimore City's administrative manual, DPW will establish procedures to adequately maintain records. And my question is, when will you record retention policies? When will your record retention policies be updated?
We should be able to have that too by June 30th.
By when?
June 30th for this year.
The end of the fiscal year?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you'll report to the board back on finding 2 and 4 no later than June 30th,
Yes,
2017. Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President and Comptroller. I also took time to really take a look at this particular audit because one of the things that we really want to do is create the transparency The other issue is around the technology. We need to get that put in place immediately because we don't want to establish goals that we can't meet. And, you know, I need us to really take a close look at the recommendations. And I would like to also know when the recommendations that you made, we want to know when they're implemented, and that needs to be reported back to the board as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? The audit has been noted. There have been no business before this board. The board will recess until bid opening at 12 noon. Why I hit my phone? I hit my phone.
Good afternoon. The Board of Ethics is now in session for the receiving and opening of bids. There are no addendum for today. WC 1211 Ashburton Reservoir Zone 2 tanks. A bid bond is required if the amount is over $100,000. Allen Myers, Maryland, Inc., with a bid bond. $137,777,777. That's with a bid bond. Renda, R-E-N-D-A, J. Bros, J-B-R-O-S, joint venture with a bid bond. $136,964,200. Ciambro Corporation with a bid bond. $159,012,600.
Refer these bids to the Department of Public Works for tabulation and report.
Thank you. B50004839, Gages pressure and level measurement instrumentation. A bid bond is not required.
It appears to be.
This is an item bid based upon discount. The discounts will not be read. Pollard Water.
This is all of theirs. This is. That's more duplicates.
Yes. Ferguson Enterprises, doing business as Ferguson Waterworks. Job and Company. Flow Controls, Inc.
Refer these bids to the Bureau of Purchases for tabulation and report.
There being no further business, we are adjourned.
Great.
It's not gonna stay.